Tell the story of the craziest person you've met. Story 1. So this isn't the definition of crazy that you're looking for. There are no wacky antics, no violent outbursts, just the story of a man who was quite ill. This is a story that I've wanted to tell for a while, about a profoundly depressed man that we'll call Dave. I did a stint in a mental institution for a few weeks. The circumstances that lead up to my hospitalization are messy and painful, not really the sort of thing I want to go into at the moment. But I met Dave there, and I think I learned a lot from the experience. Dave was a big guy, not fat, just big, maybe a bit over 6 feet. Tall and quite wide. He had dark hair that was turning gray at the temples, but his face looked far older, deeply lined, weathered, the sort of face that tells a story of years of pain. Dave was depressed, deeply so, and had been for years. Antidepressants barely put a dent in it, he told me, and he had pretty much given up. He wasn't stupid, he knew he needed help, but life had worn him down so much that he finally checked into the hospital as a last-ditch effort to stave off tragic end for another few years. He participated in all of the group sessions and activities. He was never angry. He never cried in public. He would just sit in a chair looking lost. There was nothing left for him. Even his wife, who visited when she was able, couldn't cheer him up. It was just this incredible bleak darkness that swallowed up his entire perception of the world until nothing was left but empty sadness. And then he started electroconvulsive therapy. ECT sounds a lot scarier than it is. It conjures up Hollywood images of cackling doctors torturing helpless patients, of cruel medical experiments. It's not like that at all. They put in an IV, put you under general anesthesia, induce a seizure with an electrical current, and then wake you up. You lose about 12 hours of memory with each session, sometimes a bit more. You remember falling asleep the previous night, and nothing after that. After Dave's 3rd or 4th session, things began to change. He would talk to people without being approached first. At mealtimes, he actually seemed to be enjoying dessert. I had some chocolate that a visiting friend had brought me, and I offered some to him. Previously, he would just kind of whisper, "No thank you." But this time, I saw something beautiful. He smiled. I pointed it out to him, and he said that it was the first time he had smiled in more than a year. He cried as I handed him over the candy. I was released a few days later, and I haven't heard from him since. I've put my life back together. Pretty well, I think. I'm not in school anymore, but I plan on going back next year to finish my degree, if the university will let me. But every once in a while, when I feel at my worst, when everything seems horrible, when the entire weight of the world comes crashing down, I just think of Dave and his first smile, and then I feel just a tiny bit better. That felt good to type out. I haven't cried for quite a while, but I find myself doing it now. If he's out there, I hope that life is going well for him. Thank you, Dave. Answer. It's good to read how ECT has changed, and of course, the knock-on effect it's had for you. I've read that there have been clinical trials of a sort of brain pacemaker, a device that uses a much milder electric current to get the same kind of brain stimulation as ECT treatments. Good to see medical science and the caring that goes with it making a difference. Story 2. I was at the beach when I was a teen, and I was skimboarding. I had to bail off of my board to avoid hitting some long-haired dude that was standing about calf-deep in the ocean doing some hand motions that looked like he was trying to summon an energy ball or something. I made an ambiguous comment questioning his sanity, so he followed me around for a while and then, beginning yelling loudly to some entity, requesting the powers of the ocean rise up and wipe me from the earth. For about 20 minutes. A small crowd actually formed to watch his attempts to smite me with the omnipotence of 3-foot swells and seaweed. Story 3. His name was Hal. He rode around town collecting snakes. On a fudge scooter. He smelled like farts and dried piss. He swore he was psychic because snake blood. He got arrested for trying to push a police cruiser down the boat ramp while the officer was in the cruiser eating lunch, with the car still running, with the shifter firmly in park. Story 4. Once I had an apartment with my cousin. His friend from Arizona came to live with us for a couple weeks. He ended up staying on my couch for a month, doing nothing but getting partied too hard. Didn't want to kick him out because he was my cousin's guest. This went on for another couple weeks, and I eventually got tired of him and kicked him out. I find out a month later that he moved back to Arizona and stayed with my cousin's female friend for a couple weeks. Apparently, she had told him to leave because he was freeloading as he had done to me. And in response, he eliminated her and violation. Her body in the bathtub. I had no idea I was living with that kind of crazy for so long. Story 5. Rusty. While Rusty can't compare to psychic snake blood drinkers or cultist priests who battle Jews, I can assure you, he is equally crazy. Rusty lived down the street from us in a small country town in Florida. He was a balding, tall, skinny man in his late 40s. He'd wander up the road and tell stories during family get-togethers and other social occasions. Rusty had been at the World Trade Centers on 911 and was instructed by the government to conduct testing on the chemicals while the towers were collapsing. Rusty had worked on a special team of researchers tasked with finding a cure for cancer. They found it. The government covered it all up. Rusty shared with us that he, and he alone, had a way to clean the Gulf oil spill and had offered his services to the government for a few $1,000,000. Rusty was a hacker and had hacked into every government agency you could think of. He also begged us for our Wi-Fi password, often. On New Year's, I set off some fireworks for the kids in my family. Rusty shows up a few minutes later, commenting on the fireworks. He says he has a small hydrogen bomb that he wanted to set off that night, but he didn't want to melt our houses. That's all I can remember, but there was so much more. While these stories of grandeur might not sound crazy, just made up, it was the look in his eyes and the way his voice rasped with excitement as he told them that really bothered me. Story 6. Former employee of mine, political canvasser, let's call her Jen. Jen was in her late 30s, probably fairly attractive when she was a teenager, but 2 decades of drinking, substances, and physical abuse really did a number on her appearance. Didn't stop her from wearing spandex at every opportunity, however. She had no verbal filter. This should have been apparent when, during her interview, she volunteered that she had a DUI on her record. At the time, though, I appreciated her honesty and the story itself. I got it after the Dukakis victory party. Was actually pretty funny. Unfortunately, the revelations did not end there. We had a state representative come into the office to meet the canvassers one day. Jen knew this gentleman and decided to tell her co-workers all about him. Jim's a great guy. He and I had the same DUI attorney. Oh dear. Whatever. She was showing up on time and was, bizarrely enough, fairly effective in talking to voters. Then she began sharing other interesting tidbits from her life with anyone who would listen. I was just in the bathroom and had diarrhea, so I have to go home. My ex is stalking me. He used to break my brains out in high school. A guy once paid $300 to piss on me in that alley. She encouraged a neighbor of hers to apply for a job with us. He was shabbily dressed, physically dirty, gave every indication of being an intimacy offender, and strangest of all, drove to the office in an ice cream truck. I'm not allowed to discuss the specifics of his background check results, but the words, "Do not hire this guy," appeared several times. Alas, my interaction with Jen ended when she suddenly decided to stop taking her medication. This led to her screaming at her immediate supervisor and storming out of the office because she had imagined he called her fat. Never saw her again. Story 7. I had a few friends over for some plant substance smoking and beer drinking. A little while later, another friend shows up with this guy who I've only heard about, never met, but is a known weirdo. So, in the midst of joke-telling and general merriment, out of nowhere, this guy turns to me and says, "If you're ever on a tragic end mission in the Arctic with a pack of wolves following you, and you have a chunk of pork fat and some razor blades, you can put one of the razors in the fat and leave it for the wolves to find. It will freeze, and the wolves will lick it and cut their tongues, and the smell of blood will send them into a frenzy, and they will attack each other." I just look at him and say, "Well, I'll have to remember that." This is but one of many Wes stories. Story 8. Jim. So I'm on the train from DC to New York, and there are only 2 people in the car, Jim and me. I made polite conversation to pass the time with him, and he seemed pretty normal at first. I plug in my headphones after a bit and start taking a quick nap. I wake up to him screaming in my face. Not your average screaming. No. There was spittle flying everywhere. I could actually taste the onion sub he had had for lunch. I asked him, in a panic, what was wrong, and he thought that I had stolen his dead wife's wedding ring. He whipped out his knife on me, and at this point, I'm praying that I don't die. I managed to calm him down and reassure him that I didn't take the ring. I helped him look for it in the car, but couldn't find it. Just when I thought that he was going to start acting normally again, he drops this bombshell on me. "We're going to take the train." I freaked the fudge out. "What the fudge do you mean?" Apparently, he wanted to hijack the train because he thought that the conductor had stolen his dead wife's wedding ring. Now, like most people, I don't want to go to federal pound-me-in-the-jerk prison, so I tried to talk him out of it. I'm trying to persuade him not to get us sent to jail for hijacking, because for some reason I'm sure that I'll take the blame too, and a conductor walks in. I explain the situation to him, and they get the police to take care of the guy at the next stop. TLDR guy pulls a knife on me while I'm sleeping, accuses me of stealing, and tries to hijack a train. Story 9. Dunno if anyone will see this, but here goes. When I lived with a certain friend of mine for about the span of the year, we somehow increased our chances of running into crazies when hanging out together. I don't know why. This one particularly stands out. It was early March, and Chris, our friend April, and myself decided to set out to the mountain shadow to watch the hockey game. The Canucks won, and so we got an extra pitcher to celebrate. The majority was consumed by Chris and I, with April only have a couple pints. We were tipsy, she was not. This is important. Following the last pitcher, we pay our bills and get back on the 135 bus back to our place. It's a huge, long double bus of sorts and nearly empty, so we make for the back and sit and banter there. The bus makes another stop a few blocks down and picks up some dude. Enter Crazy Guy. This guy makes a beeline straight to the back of the bus and sits down adjacent to us and starts talking us up. Later, April would say he creeped her out from the beginning, but Chris and I did not at all pick up on it until it was too late. Anyways, early in the conversation, this dude informs us he works for the CBC and is in the midst of working on some reality show due to premiere sometime in the upcoming fall. I forgot what the premise was, but had an MP3 player that could record audio, and we were asked political questions and answered into them. We were supposed to a prize or some shoot. Then we got off the bus at our stop near the Vancouver-Burnaby border. He did too, as his connecting bus was right there. He offered us each a smoke. We smoked with him. And, for some reason completely unknown to us, offered to blaze him up at our place. April shoots us a look as if to say, "Dudes, what in the fudge?" He takes us up on it. This is where things take a turn. As we begin the 10-minute walk back to our place, it became apparent that he was in fact crazy. He begins by mentioning that he is some sort of elite paratrooper sniper who had served in the Canadian Armed Forces over in Afghanistan. He also apparently still had his gun, as he was so good at his job that the Army let him keep it. He also apparently had the highest eliminate count of the entire Army and was rewarded by the government with $1 million bill. Not a check, a bill. By this time, we had got back to our house and were seriously reconsidering our actions that night. But fudge it, he was already in the house and we already rolling the joint. We moved to basement and blazed. By this time, our conversation had become more of us listening to him give a sort of monologue and into some previous unfathomable dimension of crazy. Each time we thought he'd just topped himself, he'd do it again. I can't remember a lot of what he said down in the basement, but what I do remember in crystal clear detail is what he said when we were having a smoke on the patio just before he left. He informed us that he was one of 6,000 people who all had ESP and could converse with each other psychically around the world. They would talk about their problems apparently, as well as discussing deep philosophical questions. He broke the number of 6,000 down into each ethnic group, as well as where they all lived. Famous people he regularly converses with over ESP include Henry Kissinger and Taylor Swift. He left shortly thereafter. We went back to the basement and played Mario Kart 64 and attempted to piece together how that all happened. Story 10. My college roommate freshman year. I could tell he was a little strange the very first day when he stood up watching TV swaying back and forth. We were watching The Simpsons and he recited the dialogue in time, along with the show, every fudge word. He never showered. I had a picture on an old phone of his bed sheets. They were hospital white when we arrived at school, and by the end of the first semester contained a large brown imprint of his body. The mirror in our room was on the wall above his desk. He spent hours every day staring into it and talking to himself, mostly mumbling, often repeating things he had just watched on YouTube, usually shoot anime. His other daily habit was walking outside our room and then bolting back in, stopping just before he was about to hit the wall on the other side. He'd do this for hours. I pretty much considered it his form of pacing. Oftentimes when I was hanging out in other people's rooms, he'd come wandering the dorm, looking for me. Ever had your crazy, total lack of hygiene roommate waltz into a girl's room you're just relaxing and having a good time with? Pretty much eliminate the mood. He only wore flip-flops year-round, and we got quite a bit of snow during our cold PA winters. He had a peculiar way of running and ran everywhere around campus. He was known as Raptor Boy, among many other names apparently, at school. There is plenty more to it, but that should plant the crazy image well enough. TL.dr. My roommate freshman year of college was a crazy, unhygienic, cock-blocking raptor human that liked to run at walls. Answer. Sucks, man. Sorry to hear it. I was hoping the story would at least be funny, but it's not. It's just sad. Anyway, that dude sounds profoundly autistic. Profoundly. The swaying, the memorizing, the running back and forth, the poor hygiene, it all first perfectly. If you still know him or his family, you might let them know. There are treatments. He could get better, or at least more tolerable. Story 11. I met the craziest psychopath on the road, so I'm driving, and the lane I was in was getting construction which required for me to switch to the next lane. I turned on my blinker and waited until there was enough room to merge. Finally, an opportune moment came and I began to do so. Suddenly, this maniac in that lane from at least 15 feet away sped up and almost hit me. I see him coming, so I quickly pull back into my lane. He pulls up next to me and starts pointing his finger at me, repeatedly. He continued this for a good 3 minutes until I flicked him off, which made him go batshit insane. He peels off, leaving dust behind him. I finally merge into that lane, and he's in front of me. He sees that I'm behind him and decides to brake really hard, which makes me almost collide into him. I freak out and decide to switch lanes to get away from this fudge, but he sees me and swerves left and right so I can't pass him. Finally, he stops completely, blocking me and all the traffic behind me. I'm too scared to get out of my car because I'm a girl, and this guy is obviously a lunatic. Finally, the car behind me gets out, exchanges a few words with this crazy old man, and he goes speeding off. I continue on and approach a red light. Well, lo and behold, the crazy guy is next to me. He gets out, walks over to a police car that's also sitting at the light, and starts pointing his finger at me again. The same guy that got out of his car before gets out again and goes over to the crazy man and starts talking to the cop. The cop gestures the crazy man to get back in his car, and I bolted as soon as that light turned green. TLDR, don't stick your car in crazy. Answer. The car behind me gets out, exchanges a few words with this crazy old man, and he goes speeding off. The same guy that got out of his car before gets out again and goes over to the crazy man and starts talking to the cop. What a good Samaritan. He sees that I'm behind him and decides to brake really hard, which makes me almost collide into him. What a crazy guy. The world is a neat place. Story 12. I have met a lot of crazy people. However, the one I will talk about is a guy I have known since he was a little kid. He is out there bad crazy. He has held someone hostage in their own house. He stabbed his brother twice in the chest when they got in a drunken fight one night. I have been walking down the street to see him running after some people in a dress with a sword. I have seen him jump headfirst out of 3rd and 4th story windows to get away from the police. One night, he thought someone at the bar had stolen $20 from him. He went to his house, about a block away, and grabbed a sword. He returned to the bar and started threatening people with it until someone pulled a gun out and the cops were called. He ran, making sure he fudged up every car outside of the bar with the sword on his way to his place. One day he broke into the business of a local transsexual and took a picture of his male body part with the camera the owner kept behind the counter. He once stole a car. While his passenger was rifling through the chute, they pulled a radio and police light out from under a hidden docking station for them under the seat. They realized he stole an undercover police vehicle or detective's car. So he decided to drive it into the side of a local supermarket. As a kid, he would always get thrown into juvenile prison. He broke out every time. They eventually got him after an escape and sent him to a juvenile facility on the same island they conduct SEAL training on. He escaped that building, got into the SEAL camp, was in uniform about to get on a ferry when they asked him for his ID, busted again. He once dragged a man out of car and beat his jerk in the middle of the street. The guy cut me off and almost caused a wreck. I yelled something at him and the guy in his car replied, "Then do something about it, faggot." The guy I knew was sitting on the public bench right there. That guy wasn't calling anyone a faggot when he was getting stomped after being pulled through his car window. We'll keep name confidential. I miss you sometimes. Story 13. I once met a homeless gentleman who used to hang out around a diner I drank coffee at every day. He carried around a motorcycle full of mushrooms and one of those cheap mechanical vacuum cleaners. He once gave me 2 pebbles and told me I could give one to my love, but no matter what, keep the other for myself. Story 14. I once dated a guy who turned out to be a paranoid schizophrenic. He would often accuse me of infidelity when I did no such thing. He would contort his face and speak to me in a growl-like voice whenever he made these accusations. these episodes would just start out of nowhere without provocation. Meanwhile, there were many times when he would say the sweetest, most romantic things in a very warm and nurturing tone of voice. Also, I once went on vacation to Mexico for a month to visit family while I was still with him. When I returned, I showed him my pictures from the trip and he kept comparing pictures of Mexico City's streets with streets here in the US. The implication being that he didn't believe that I traveled to where I said I had been. This happened when I was in high school and it was an abusive relationship. It wasn't until I started going to college and took general psych that I put together what had been this guy's problem. Today, he is a registered intimacy offender, and his status simply says, absconder. Who knows where he is today and what crazy shoot he's laying on other people. Story 15. This guy was one of my best friends in high school. I suspect he's still living on the streets in LA. He's one of the craziest people I've ever met, but I've known a lot. My tolerance for them is kind of low these days. Story 16. When I was on the Max in Portland, a lady gets on mumbling something to herself. She's obviously a bit